is a conversation I had with Trevor Fulbright and Shimmy. They are two guests that I have frequently on this podcast because they are very knowledgeable in their field. They both have a lot of training experience as well as knowledge of the scientific evidence behind training and nutrition. This podcast is solely a Q&A episode where we answer user-submitted questions on our Instagram. If you ever want to be a part of these, we usually put the question box up on our stories on Thursdays before we film the podcast on Fridays. So if you want to get your question answered in a long form format, then be sure to submit it when you see our question box pop up. In this particular podcast, we discuss questions that we got regarding the raw stimulus magnitude, which refers to the net muscle growth stimulus that an exercise provides regardless of the amount of fatigue that exercise provides. We also discuss protein timing, meal frequency, how Trevor is lazy, and how that actually is beneficial to his progress as a bodybuilder. We also discuss the controversy around the recent exposure of Liver King and his lying about performance-enhancing drug use. If you like the podcast, be sure to leave us a review on your favorite listening platform. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you're on YouTube. And you can always submit questions in the comments as well for future episodes. Thank you all for watching.
How's it going, everybody? This is the Conscious Bodybuilding Podcast, episode number 31. And today we have Trevor Fulbright back on and Shimmy to answer some listener submitted questions. So, how are you guys doing today?
Fantastic.
I'm alive. That's something.
Trevor is recovering from strep throat, so he can actually talk now.
Trevor,
that's why we're doing podcast.
Sounds great.
That's what I was saying. I was telling her that.
Yeah, I'm surprised how quickly it came back, considering how bad it was on Friday.
Yeah. So he decided to bless us with his presence, even though he's still recovering, which is awesome. Thank you, Trevor.
You were Darth figured out for sure.
My subjects.
Yeah. Telling you, just show up in costume one day. First question that we have submitted today was one that was submitted to Trevor. It says, how would you go about maximizing the RSM, for those of you who don't know, that's raw stimulus magnitude, on a quad and chest moves, regardless of fatigue?
Trevor, you go first.
All right, fair. So first thing is generally we're going to look at more free weight exercises that have less friction to get in the way of potential affecting the eccentric portion of it. Things that are going to give you big stretch and things that you can push hard near failure on. Mostly that's going to be ideally, probably if you have it, a cambered bar bench press. Would you agree, Shimmy? Biggest raw stimulus magnitude?
I want to agree with you, but I'm not going to agree with you.
All right. Well, Shimmy will tell me why he doesn't agree.
Yeah, and I'm not agreeing with you either. You'll see when I talk after you. Yeah, I want to agree with you.
Okay, we'll get there.
Yeah.
For squats, barbell squat, unless you're not built for a barbell squat, and then probably a Smith squat. So one thing that just in general keep in mind with all these things is like the raw stimulus magnitude, the stimulus to fatigue ratio, all these things, they're individual factors. It is what is going to give you the largest raw stimulus, irregardless of fatigue. Now, those are generally going to be more common among people than higher SFR exercises, but there's going to be some level of individuality to them.
Yeah.
I think I might have just nailed on what Shimmy was getting at.
Yeah. So the first thing that I want to say is, did you guys know that irregardless doesn't make sense? Because regardless and irregardless does the same thing. No. It's just very ghetto. And a lot of people do this. They'd be like, yeah, irregardless. It's regardless. That's neither here nor there.
Professor Shimmy.
That's neither here nor there.
Is it a word in the dictionary?
I don't know, but think about it. What does irregardless do that regardless doesn't? It's the same thing.
I would have to look in the definition.
I'm doing this.
Lakegra, Blue Steel, Ferrari, they're all the same look. Anyway, this question begs a simple answer, right? Which is what Trevor was getting at. You pick the free weight movement where you can generate the biggest stretch. And you have a very intellectual, or we have a very intellectual audience. So you guys all know it's deficit deadlifts, it's barbell rowing, it's high bar squat, it's cambered bench, it's close grip bench, it's weighted dips. But the thing is, it's not. It's whatever works for you to get you the biggest RSM. So to me, the best thing that you can do is throw each one at the wall and see which one sticks in the most potent way for you. We've all probably had people where we gave them an exercise that was the one I just named and was like, this is totally going to rock you. And it didn't. It was like, all right, I'll just give you a different exercise then and see how it goes. There are plenty of people where flat dumbbell presses destroy them as compared to a cambered bar bench, or where leg press is so much more disruptive to them than a high bar squat. And I don't just mean disruptive to the target muscle, because that would be an SFR question. I mean disruptive in general.
Yeah.
So,
you take somebody who's not built a high bar squat.
For sure.
Oh, well, if you want the biggest stimulus to your quads you can get, do a high bar squat.
For sure. Cue the older trainers and bodybuilder people who, when you talk to them about being big, they say, well, you got to squat, you got to bench, and you don't. You might, but you might not.
Yeah.
And this is in the context that these people have dialed in their technique individually. Because like I remember the clip, one of the clips I pulled from you, Shimmy, talking was that if these movements aren't working, first and foremost, make sure that that they are individualized to you, to your structure, and your technique is perfect, and all these other things, right? That's in the context of those things, right?
Yeah. But that being said, like I said before, I don't not agree with Trevor. If you are going to start from zero, you're going to start with free weight barbell exercises with big stretch components that have an ability to load a lot of weight on them. This is the start, but it's only the start. It's not the finish for a lot of people.
Right. Yeah. Like for good.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say for myself, like I'm more so now having to step away from some of these moves just because
you're so fucking big. That's why.
Well, like a Smith squat like hurts my knees, and like my low back sense of fatigue, and like some of the other things. I have to get a little more creative and step away from those things. And it was difficult at first because I was like, well, these are the things that are going to be put on mass, right? But then if you actually just look at your proxies, your pump disruption, all that stuff, and you start to or at least I've started to kind of step away from the traditional what would be the best RSM moves or considered on average.
One thing that I think you can say, and Shimmy is probably going to disagree with me on this one, if we're looking at fatigue not as a part of this, if we're just looking at what can drive the biggest stimulus, I would say not using excessively slow eccentrics, or don't just bounce out of the hole, but don't use excessively long pauses either. Those are techniques to further reduce the fatigue of an exercise. If you're beat up, you might do a 5-second eccentric squat. If your knees feel fine and you feel fine and you're not beat up, just control your eccentric. Don't dive bomb it.
Right.
For sure. Those pauses and the slow eccentrics always come from a need, not out of nowhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just if you don't need to do them, you're not getting bonus points by using those, when it means you have to use 30% of your 1 rep max because you don't bother to just try to, maybe instead of doing a 6-second eccentric, I'm just going to control it and come out of the bottom smoothly.
Sure. And Dylan, also to the point that you said, and Trevor, I don't know if you'll agree with me. I think that you will. The topic of RSM is irrelevant after a couple years of training. It quickly becomes an RSM to SFR conversation after you've been training for a few years. Your first year or 2 or 3, sure, like pick the highest RSM things, but after that, I mean,
at the very least by 5 years,
kind of irrelevant.
Yeah. I think Trevor said at the very least 5 years of training experience. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, and then I noticed I said some of the fatigue components when I was saying why I don't do the higher RSM exercises as much. So yeah, I think I still am thinking from the fatigue side.
When we're all
unfortunately.
grown up like Dylan is, then we can worry about fatigue a little bit more.
Yeah.
Just take copious amounts of growth hormone and other steroids, and you'll be there.
Yeah. Dylan, you're fucking jacked, man.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Trying.
You are fucking huge.
We'll see. I'm trying to do supers this upcoming competition season.
That's gonna be wild to see.
Jeez.
I think I actually picked a show. I think I might do nationals in Florida next year.
Oh hell yeah!
Oh, nice. Very
That'll
nice.
be fun. I've never been to Florida.
Are you going to go to Florida for a few weeks before or just for the show?
Probably. So another side thing, I want to travel more next year. It looks like, I think it might be Frontier, or they're offering a looks like an all-you-can-fly pass.
Yeah, I've heard of this. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was thinking of expensing that and just like doing podcasts and stuff and going to different gyms.
Well, I can
That'd be
tell you
kinda
the Florida gym scene, there's some really good gyms in Florida.
Yes,
Yeah.
there is.
Mm-hmm. Depending on where you go. Where's the show?
I don't know where it is, but the one that just happened this weekend.
It's Orlando, isn't it?
Fort Lauderdale.
Oh, was it Fort Lauderdale?
No?
I thought
Well, and
Nationals was in Orlando.
shit, I just disconnected myself. I don't know. I'd have to look it up. But the guy who did the lighting, hopefully he does it again next year. The guy who does the photography, Whitman or something like that.
White Goodman?
No, I don't think that's. I don't know what it is, but he does all those really cool bodybuilding photography.
Yeah, I know
Trevor-
the name.
Trevor, it was so good, man. I was literally watching by myself. Like, I haven't seen it in 10 years.
Such a
Oh my God.
that's so
People, you've all probably seen Dodgeball before, but if you haven't seen it in a few years, do yourselves a favor and watch it again. It's so, everything about it, start to finish, so perfect.
Yeah, I saw you posted a clip up from it.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just so good.
So here, I got some questions that were submitted to me. I don't know. I bumped my camera and it's not.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you're off the videos now.
I know it's a stupid HDMI capture card. If you like tap it, it just like disconnects. Anyway, okay. So I got some other questions here. Let's see. Kratos Coaching asks, would it still be a good idea to eat high protein meal before bed if protein requirements are met for that day? Or would it be better off? Would I be better off eating more carbs instead? So I think he's saying that he like met his protein needs already.
And your meal's better.
And he's like maybe wants to hit the leucine threshold or something like that.
Yeah, well,
What's the purpose of this? Like,
yeah, it was like
you
Shimmy.
know, are you doing it just to do it? I have questions, you know. I mean, are you hungry and you're dieting, so therefore you're having a problem? Or are you massing and you feel like you can handle more food? And if you do eat that meal before you go to sleep, is it going to mess with your sleep? Have you been sleeping poorly in general? Like, what's your energy like? There's just too many questions, Credo.
Okay, well, I'll actually answer.
Yeah.
Man.
I'll just be useless.
First, planning your meals better. Like,
Yeah.
If you plan to have a protein feeding before bed, how are you running out of protein macros before the end of the day? You didn't plan your meals well. I don't like the whole macro Tetris thing of like super flexible dieting. Sure, there's a time and a place for it. If you're just in maintenance and chilling in life, yeah, go for it. Who the hell cares? But if you're dieting or massing, like, plan your meals a little bit better. But if you otherwise, I really don't think it's a huge deal. Like, I don't think you need to hit, like, if you're worried about the leucine threshold, I don't think that's actually something worth worrying about, period, for anybody.
I agree.
Unless you're only consuming whey protein and no mixed meals. it's a non-issue.
Mhm.
Like, so if you're just worried about getting it because you want to have a more protein to kind of come into the blood, more amino acids come into the blood system throughout the sleep and the fast, I think it's minutia. You're not going to lose anything. If you don't want to have the meal, don't have the meal. It's not a big deal. If you do want to have that meal, then you need to plan your meals better.
Yeah, and that being said, if you are massing, then you probably could, because I don't think it will matter. And I would probably
wouldn't
have
matter.
carbs instead of the protein, because you're saying you already hit your protein for the day. So if you're not over fat and you are massing, carbs will probably make you sleep even better. So
Yeah.
have the carbs. But if you're not massing and you're dieting, definitely don't have the carbs. And if you're having hunger issues, then having a little bit of protein before bed, I don't think is a bad idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say the only caveat to what Trevor said, as far as like the leucine threshold and whatnot, is that he didn't have his like last protein feeding me like really early in the day, like early afternoon or something like that, and he's had 8 hours without it. Like then I would say hit your minimum, which is like 20 grams for most people, and then fill the rest with the carbs. And then
but that still goes back to planning your meals better.
yeah, exactly. And then I was going to say then plan your meals better. Like if you get stuck in that pinch, do that. But then in the future it would be more so make sure your protein feedings are spread out evenly. You have a certain amount you hit per meal, and account, especially if you're like massing, account for like some of the extra protein and whatnot. Yeah, exactly. All right, next question.
That's actually something we need to talk about in the past, is because it's a question that gets asked all the time. What do we do about protein from carb sources? How do we
actually because I think I have a little bit of a different opinion. What do you do, Trevor?
So I have my protein per meal from high quality sources set, and it never changes. Dieting, massing or not, that never changes. And it's right about 200 grams total throughout the day, spread throughout the day. And past that, my protein totals vary. It can be in a deep cut 230 grams and a hard mass 350 grams total of protein, because that's just ancillary coming in from carb sources. When you eat 1,000 grams of carbs a day, you're going to have 200 grams of protein from carbs.
Shimmy, do you do anything?
Yeah, so it would be moronic for me to phrase the following as I never bought in that the protein and carbs doesn't count. So I'm not going to phrase it like that. I definitely count the protein from carbs. I don't count it exactly the same as I do from protein in its more pure form, I guess you'd say, but I don't not count it. So here's an example. Let's say I'm tracking a meal, and based on the labels of the carbs and based on the measurements of the ounces of the beef that I'm having, I come out to 47 grams of protein for that meal. I'll round down to an increment of 5. So it's 45. So if I have 9 grams of protein that I'm getting from whole wheat bread, I'll most likely go to like 5 grams of protein that I'm getting from the bread. So I'm not counting it as equal. Maybe I'm counting it as like half, but I'm still counting it because I do think that it's useful.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's not useful, but I just think it's, your carbs are what varies between a cut and a mass. Largely, I mean, your protein is largely going to stay the same. Okay. So in my mind, it's just easier to just say, hey, I'm going to have 150 grams of chicken with meal XYZ. I'm going to have a scoop and a half of protein, with meal 1, 2, 3. And that's going to be my protein for the day.
Totally is. Totally is.
That makes sense.
It's totally easier to do it that way. I'm not saying my way's easier. That's just what I do.
So I do a little bit differently. So I would say I'm kind of in the middle, where maybe, I don't know if it requires not necessarily more effort, but from my understanding, from people who interpret the research, because I'm not the greatest at interpreting myself, most of our protein recommendations come from the studies where basically 50% of the protein is coming from whole sources. So meaning that when accounting for our protein requirements per day and our total protein, when that is researched, like the 1.8, 1.6 grams per kg, the most of that a lot of it is either mixed and that is accounting for ancillary sources of protein.
Yeah.
So I personally don't even worry about it. I hit a gram per pound. Now I do a gram per pound because being enhanced, muscle protein synthesis is elevated. Now the utilization is probably better, but we don't really have any data, so we don't really know. So I just think that's hedging your bets really well, is just staying around that 1 gram. You can potentially go higher. And for clients, 1.8, so 1.8 grams per kg, or 0.8 to 1 gram per pound. And I don't worry too much about that. If someone goes over with whole sources, animal-based proteins and things like that, it's not really much of a worry to me. But I usually just say 50 to 60% of protein sources in each meal coming from whole protein sources, animal-based proteins, dairy, things like that, eggs, and don't worry about the rest.
Yeah.
Right on.
There's one other thing that I think benefits from and doing it like I do, where I just have a set amount of protein of whole protein that is the same regardless all the time. And this is only something you'll experience if you ever have to eat absurd amount of carbs. Is that if you have to eat, if you're eating, so much pasta in a meal that you're getting 250 grams of carbs from that meal, and you're going to get 40, 45, 50 grams of protein from that meal, or just pasta alone. A meal is a lot less satisfying if you have an ounce of chicken in it.
Yeah.
And it's just not satisfying.
But that would be breaking that rule, right? Because that wouldn't be 50% of your
not 50% of the meal, but if you're looking for a whole day. If you have to eat 1,000 grams of carbs, you might have a meal that is 250 grams of carbs of pasta.
Right. But I'm sorry. Explain. I'm not sure if I get it exactly.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, this is something that people only who have to eat absurd amount of carbs will understand.
Right.
Say your total grams of carbs for the day is 1,000 grams of carbs and your 250 grams of protein.
Mm.
You have a meal that is 250 grams of carbs from pasta. That's going to be like 40 grams of protein just from the pasta alone. And if your goal is to get 50 grams, 60 grams of protein in that, you're going to get like an ounce of chicken to fill in the rest of the protein needs for the meal. And it's just like, oh, that's very unsatisfying.
Yeah. Well, in that case, you would do like, say, you need to hit X amount of protein. Let's say it's like 40 grams. I would still throw in like 20 grams of a whole source, right? Whatever your pre-agreed upon is for the day. What I was saying
is this is why I find my method
the fixed amounts. That makes sense.
The fixed amounts easier is because then I just don't have to worry about it. And I have enough in a meal that I know it's enough. It's not like I'm going crazy. I'm not having 50 grams per meal. And the total that I actually aim to hit with it is closer to 0.8 grams. And so, because I know the carbs are going to cover up to whatever a gram of protein per pound of body weight.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
I mean, this is beyond nuanced. How many people are having 1,000 grams of carbs a day and 250 grams?
That's what I said. There's not a lot of people are going to be in that situation.
I'll probably be in a mess or two.
Even on a smaller level.
But 2 of the 3 of the people in this podcast have been in this situation before, Shimmy.
Yeah, you guys are not the norm. Okay, that is so
We're completely normal. We represent the population.
Well, look, even in something more manageable, even if someone had to do multiple meals of, let's say, 100 to 120 grams of carbs and 50 grams of protein, which is a lot more manageable, you don't have to get all of that from white rice or pasta. I see no problem in saying, okay, I'm going to do 80 grams of carbs from the pasta or the rice, no problem. Then I'm going to do 25 grams from a fruit, right? Then maybe I'll have a cookie, and now we're all good. And then that also leaves you room to do 4 or 5 ounces of protein right then and there. And this is a whole balanced meal instead of just
That's a lot of effort in a meal, is all I'm saying. That's way more effort than
I think Trevor's like way more simplistic.
You are so analytical and so like to the T, but there's pockets of you that are so selectively lazy that it's very interesting.
He's a busy man.
You know, like you're such a narc with most things, but like what you just said, like that's so lazy.
Yeah, you're right. I am beyond lazy when it comes to making food.
So funny.
That's what I told Dylan. The last 4 days, I've eaten a tub of like 2 tubs of yogurt a day because that's all I can eat.
I can't do that.
I have admiration for that because like when a meal takes me more than like 5 to 10 minutes to prepare, I get frustrated.
Yeah.
So but at the same time, I'm like, I gotta hit my micros, and I like freak out about it. And so like I try to meet myself in the middle. But when I hear that, I'm like, wow, that must be nice because you just eats and then you go back to whatever you were doing.
Yeah.
Like I hate breaking up work, having to go eat. Like once I'm in my zone, I don't want to step away because it's so much harder for me to get started again.
Like especially on Sundays when I'm doing a bunch of updates.
Yeah,
will
same.
like miss 2 or 3 meals, and I'm like, oh hell.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not in your guys' position from a pharmacological standpoint, but can't you just liquid nutrition that until you get to where you need to go? Like, couldn't you just do chocolate milk and orange juice and peanut butter and while you're doing your work, just so you can get the food in without having to stop and then go have the rest of your meals? Couldn't you do that?
There's a point where if you do that much, it's coming out the end too quickly.
Oh, I don't know.
I'm at a low meal frequency right now, so I like really try to. So I don't have to break up from work as much. So I do 4 right now. I'll probably break to 5 when my calories get higher. But it's nicer because I don't have to eat as often. But when I do eat, you know, I'm making sure I'm having some fruit and some veggies and this and that. Like I don't want to, because like my post workout is usually just like a whey shake and milk and cereal. So I'm trying to like get some other stuff in those other meals, like some potatoes and some other stuff, like
Dylan,
just to diversify.
I love what you just said, and I really think that we should stay here for a bit because
Sure.
I think this is really good. I, like many people, and I'm sure like many people that listen to this, used to be so fond of meal frequency. I was totally that guy. I did 7 meals a day, 6 meals a day, you know, and I thought, you know, every 2 to 3 hours, right? Stoke the fire, whatever. This last year and a half, I've been doing, probably about 4 meals a day.
Yeah.
Or 4 meals and a snack. It is game changing as compared to that higher meal frequency. This is just for me. I can't speak to anybody else. But when you're dieting, the size of your meals are bigger. That is so big. Yeah. I hated eating every 2 or 3 hours with these small meals. If I could eat 3 or 4 times a day, but the meals were like a good size, that's so good. And then also when I'm massing, not that it's lazy, but that's also a task to sit down to a meal every 2 to 3 hours. That's like big, but I can do it every 4 hours. You know, if it's a big, I can do that.
Yeah.
So I think reducing, for if anyone's listening to this and they want to try it, I actually think that reducing the meal frequency and increasing the magnitude of calories consumed in each meal is a fantastic idea to try, unless you're enormous.
Well, and I mean, I found it works well. I tend to get hungry when the meal comes around. So far, you know, I'm at like 700 carbs right now. We'll see when I push it up any higher. But it's also just nice because, you know, you like, and then I could see how I haven't done it while I've been dieting yet, but I can see how it'd be really, that's what I'm saying. I can see how it'd be really awesome because if you can just like keep yourself busy, you're likely to be fuller for longer. Keep yourself busy, and then you get this huge meal. Like that's got to be awesome.
Yeah,
huge.
So I'm really looking forward to doing that.
So this is one thing that like, take it from the intermittent fasting camp, so to speak.
Yep.
Is when I'm dieting and when things get real rough, is I will use like a couple of whey shakes because I find I can have a whey shake and it just does 0 to affect my hunger at all. There's no rebound hunger or anything like that. So I'll have a couple of whey shakes during like the morning, maybe early afternoon, and then have 2 to 3 like more normal size meals with the rest of my calories to fill in the rest.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then when you're
Mm-hmm.
dieting, pushing that first meal up, you have these 4 large meals. Like it probably wouldn't feel like you're dieting until you get like super lean.
Yeah.
No,
I have a
it really doesn't.
I'm super stoked to try it. I have a question that actually kind of riffs off of what Trevor was mentioning, intermittent fasting. So Morpsey asks, experience with intermittent fasting, your opinion on it, and do you agree with the latest studies? Bad excuse for binging? Question mark. No, I disagree with the scientific research. I think that my opinion is much better than it. I'm joking.
My guy.
Go ahead and mention your experience with IF if you've done it, and if you saw some of the research and whatnot.
I've not seen the research, and I think that I've done it, but I wasn't intending to do it. You know, I've mentioned multiple times on this pod that I wake up in the morning decently bloated, so I'm not hungry. And I generally get hungrier in the middle of the day into the early evening. So at the tail end of my dieting phases, I end up biasing my food to that window where I'm hungriest. But I'm not intending to do it because I'm intermittently fasting for a reason. I'm just going with the hunger, what my hunger cues give me. So I've never IF'd for IF's sake, but I've F'd.
Jesus, Shimmy.
Great, that was good. I'm gonna
It was
clip
good,
that.
huh? It was good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, hey, this is the STD podcast, bro. You got to F.
Yeah.
Right, we're going with that, right? Okay.
Well, yeah, we're going with it. We're stuck now.
So good.
Um,
Dylan, do you know the clip where fuck, I don't know where it's from, where it's like, oh yes. Have you seen Silicon Valley?
I haven't.
Silicon Valley is my favorite show ever. I'm rewatching it again for the 3rd time. It's the greatest show ever. And there's a guy in there. His name is I'm forgetting his name right now. He's a billionaire and he's an asshole and he's hilarious. And every time he sees this one person, he's like, "This guy fucks. This guy fucks." Yeah, I'll send you the clip. You should
I've actually seen that clip.
make the reel like that. Like I don't IF, but I IF, and like this guy fucks.
I'm gonna do that.
That's so good. Anyway, sorry.
Yes, Trevor.
As I look for this clip.
So I have done intermittent fasting a lot, and I've done all kinds of different fasting periods and whatnot. I know of the research that he's talking about, but I have not had the time or energy to look into anything lately. So I will say that IF can become a binging cycle very easily if you let it. And how that happens is people get too anal about the feeding and fasting windows. Like if you're like, oh, I'm gonna do a 16-8, the most common one, and you're 12 hours into your fast and you are absolutely ravenous, you're gonna have a much harder time controlling your intake when you actually break your fast. It's gonna be a lot easier for you to just have a fuck it moment.
Yep. Agreed.
So I think rather than having this like set period of time, you just let your natural cues take over of like when you're the most hungry, when you are less hungry, and you bias food intake towards those times that you're more hungry, and perhaps just use protein shakes or things like that to get some protein boluses during those times you're less hungry.
Trevor, do you find that, say you have a newer client who kind of struggles with their weight, do you ever find that some of the issues they run into are going long periods without eating and then not having prepared food when they go to eat? That's something I've seen a lot.
Yeah. Oh, all the time. Yeah. They go long periods without eating. They'll maybe eat breakfast, maybe not, barely eat lunch at work, and then they get home and because they're not prepared with food, they order a pizza, or because they haven't thought to meal prep and things like that. Instead, they buy a frozen pizza that they can toss in the oven with very little effort.
Yeah.
And because it's easier, and I get it,
right.
It's easier. I am so bad that I have to keep canned chicken in the house because if I get home and don't have prepped food, the likelihood of me just saying fuck it, ordering a pizza is like 90%.
Trevor,
Yeah.
I really, this podcast, the title of this podcast should be, guys, the secret's out. Trevor's lazy. I'm so surprised. I really am. I would.
I'm super lazy with food.
But
Dylan,
that's the
you
thing.
also?
No, I'm not lazy with food. I'm
He's
too
like, no, not me. I'm the shit.
I'm too meticulous, unfortunately.
If it's not frozen or in a can, when I can't put it in a crock pot, I'm probably not going to make it.
But this is so cool because like you see how like Trevor has leveraged his laziness to be in shape. You know what I mean? Like the people who have the best willpower use it the least, and he has literally leveraged his lifestyle to just be fitter just by planning this stuff out. Like he's like, I know I'm lazy. It's like I can food in the house. I got frozen food. Like I'm always ready to go. Like it's really smart if you think about it.
Yep.
And that's something I see so commonly. I've seen it so many times with so many people. It's just those two things are really, really common. Is the long periods they're at work, they get busy, whatever it may be, and then they don't have food ready when and it just takes some preparation and potentially having some more consistent feeding times, right?
Yeah.
Obviously easier said than done, but I think that's a really important thing. Now, on the topic of intermittent fasting, obviously, I mean, I think most people who are somewhat in the evidence-based field understand that intermittent fasting is not magic, right? It doesn't cause magical fat loss. It's at the end of the day calorie deficit if you want to lose body fat. There is probably a potential downside because we have no storage mechanism for protein. So if you go long periods and you have just one protein bolus for muscle growth, it's not going to be as ideal. Are you still going to grow? Yeah, most likely, but just something to consider. I don't really have a whole lot of experience with that, and it's just because I just am a hungry person. So it never lended super well to me. I'm not super hungry in the morning, so sometimes I will push that meal back. But I guess this research, I actually have Menno's post up. It was a meta-analysis that showed intermittent fasting diets are worse for blood sugar, blood pressure, maybe some other cardiometabolic factors. I don't know, too much about it, and I think that this is, maybe some of the first research on it. So I wouldn't change my opinion based on this. It still kind of sits in the like, maybe it's a tool for some people to use if it works well for them, right? That's usually, what I would say. Yeah. If more starts to come out where it's like this is going to kill you, then I might start to change my opinion. But I would wait until more evidence comes out.
Yeah, if it suits your lifestyle, do it. If it doesn't, don't do it. It's not magic.
Absolutely. Not exactly. All right, let me answer. We'll get some more questions up here. Sheila Fitness asks, "What y'all think about Liver King's response?"
I haven't watched it. I don't care.
Literally just came clean, but
Shimmy has something to say about this, though.
Oh boy.
Shimmy
All
has
right.
something to say.
Did you do that on purpose?
No, I didn't.
That's
I don't know. Maybe he did.
Okay.
I didn't tell anyone what Shimmy told me.
Okay.
Oh no, rant's coming.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to turn into a rant, but we'll see. The short version, I don't think it's a problem what he did. This is the short version. I don't care that he lied that he's on steroids, and I'm going to tell you why. Never, and I've consumed some of his content recently. Never have I seen him say, if you follow these 9 ancestral tenets and do what I say, you're going to look like me. That causality was never established. Sure, he's flaunting his body. He's walking around shirtless nonstop, and he's saying, do these things. There's an implication that if you do these things, you will look like me. But that was never spoken. He never said that. So at the end of the day, his body is a marketing tool. But he never said that. So whether he took steroids or he didn't, I don't think it actually takes away from what he's doing, because there are plenty of people that are muscular, that have beards like him, that say snake oily type things, that are shredded, that haven't accomplished what he's accomplished. The guy is a marketing genius. It is what it is. He has accumulated millions of followers, listeners, and people to buy his product in the last year. I've not done that. None of you guys have. So whether he's on steroids or he's not, people bought the stuff. Now, most people are not intelligent listeners, consumers, readers. So they're going to attempt to say, well, he lied to me. And if I bought his product, I should look like him. No, that's your fault because you believed that that was what was going to happen. He never said that. He said, do these things and you will likely be better off in your life. And you know what? For most people, he's right. For most people, if they moved more, got more sunlight, ate more natural foods and protein, lifted weights, did quote unquote hard things, yeah, they would be better off. Now, I'm not going to sit here.
Right?
What?
Specifically, if they ate the bull testicles.
So this is what I was getting at. I'm not going to sit here and say, yes, if you eat the bull testicles and you eat liver, magic is going to happen. And, you know, virility is going to go shoot through the roof and your dick's going to be hard like a Rottweiler. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, if people that don't really have their health together, like a lot of people that don't listen to this, like the average person, ate more protein, was outside more, lifted weights, did hard things, you know, like supplemented with vitamins. Yeah, they would have an exceptionally better quality life. So
Wrong.
this is what I think. Do I hate that he lied? Sure. But, you know, be an adult. Everyone lies. Everyone in the media lies. You know, most of your favorite
Politicians
people
lie.
are on. Yeah, sure. Most of your favorite athletes, actors, movie stars, models are on stuff. So does that change what they've done? Does that change their personality in any way, really? Their reach? No. They just got a body. Okay. That's what I think.
Yeah. I will say from what was that?
I don't really give a shit.
Yeah. I don't either. Like, it was definitely a passing thought. I will say, like, from an integrity standpoint, I just don't like when people lie, but you can't necessarily blame someone for capitalizing on, you know, the attention. Like, people followed it. Like,
I think the weirdest thing about it is just the whole, like, how laid out the entire, like, creating the Liver King brand, the social media brand of Liver King was. I just think that's kind of weird.
But was it brand built on the fact that the guy is enormous and muscular? No. The brand was built around his personality
The crazy shit he did.
and these things that he's trying to purport.
yeah.
Well, part of it was also built on his physique. That was the whole point in him trying to hire drug coaches.
Yeah. Look, I
It
don't
is a
want to
part
say
of the
that I don't want to validate him. I don't want to say, you know, it was right what he did. But what I do want to say is whether he's on steroids or he's not on steroids, I don't actually think it matters.
Yeah. Well,
But of course, lying is totally wrong. You should not have lied.
I'll
Right,
say
right.
I don't really feel bad for people who bought his supplements thinking.
Neither do I.
If I had bought the supplements,
1000%.
like, no one. First of all, no one ever said that. Second of all, like, you're the one that's paid the money on the supplements. Like, it's like I don't feel bad for anybody that pays, that buys a fat burner and doesn't lose weight. You know,
I mean,
it's on the onus.
hold on. To what you just said, maybe opening up a can of worms, may not. I don't know. If you're going to be outraged that Liver King lied and you're mad that you bought his supplements, how in the world could you support any supplement company who are all selling you the dream of here's Blessing Awadibu, here's Kai Green, here's Nathan Epler. They take our supplements. They're muscular. You should take our supplements. You're going to look like them.
Yeah.
If you try hard. Oh, and by the way, here are videos of them working out so you can copy their workouts. It's the same shit. Same thing.
Yeah. I will say, and even from their standpoint, I think that there are people who do it with more integrity and people who don't. Like, there's some people who are like, but then there's people who just don't say anything, right? That's also a strategy that is a little bit more respectable than straight up lying.
Yeah, I think maybe one of the more shitty parts with him lying was coming up with a whole name for people who accused him.
What, subprimals?
Yeah,
Love
Really,
that.
really just going deep into the lie right now, just like
yeah, right. It's
casually.
like, oh, okay, yeah. I mean, maybe just leave it alone when people accuse you. Just
Yeah, I mean, I think like for a while, I think like Bradley Martin and some of these other Hollywood actors, they just kind of avoid it.
yeah.
And it worked out well for them.
Yeah, I
Um,
guess.
yeah. I will say his stack design was terrible.
Oh, it's awful.
What
10
can
grand
I
a
use a
month
growth
on
hormone?
growth hormone? Good God.
And then all the peptides too. And then his
Yeah.
IGF was low.
Yeah, it's like, maybe you're doing something wrong.
Like I know a lot of people are like he's on steroids, but like he's just basically on HRT, probably a little bit above, and he was mostly on growth hormone.
Yeah, he was
and growth
mostly
hormone peptides.
It was like, what was it, 50 milligram of Winstrol and
And then like replacement testosterone.
0.6 of testosterone.
Yeah, which is like maybe slightly above replacement.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I guess with the Winstrol, it's probably not, but
All right,
But-
I will do this for you guys. So Liver King or Liver King team, if any of you watch this video, you have two guys who are very qualified to handle your protocol.
yeah,
Hire
please.
them, and they
I'll
will
help- I'll
do your
help you
drug
out.
stuff for you. You just need to
Right.
post about them. That's it. You don't even need to pay them.
I
yeah,
don't know about that. He's got the
I want
money, he can pay.
yeah, I know. I want some of that $11,000.
Right.
God, I was going to say something else that is probably not important.
All right,
That
next
was-
question.
Yeah, if I remember, I'll say it. Mm. Yeah, this is actually an interesting one. Morpsey asked, what is some advice to optimize your morning and bedtime routine for recovery and productivity? That's actually, I'm kind of curious what you guys, if you have routines and, you know, if you have any tips for those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wake up at the same time every day. Go to bed at the same time every day. And yeah. So those two. When you wake up in the morning, don't immediately check your phone. Right before you go to sleep, don't check your phone. The cold room at night is obvious. Keep everything super dark is obvious. Don't eat a lot before you go to bed. I think that's quite obvious. For productivity, when you wake up in the morning, if you don't immediately check your phone, this is going to be a little bit hippy dippy, so you guys can just bear with me. Get some sunlight as soon as you wake up. I just find that it helps with mood. It just makes you feel good.
It does.
So if you're going to do like a morning walk, do that, get some sun on your face, some sun on your body, and then get to work. I think after that, a lot of people put too much stock in morning activities in the sense of, ginger shots and journaling and stretching, and don't grab your phone, have a few minutes to yourself, and then get to work. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I mean, so a lot of it is going to be like basic sleep hygiene stuff, which we all know.
Yeah,
But
I resisted doing that because he
Yeah.
said like to optimize the nighttime routine, not sleep. So I
Yeah.
know I was gonna go there, and I'm not going there.
Well, but just like, you have that, like, go to bed at the same time, wake up at the same time. Don't do like highly, like, I like to chill and relax before I go to bed. Yeah. But I specifically won't watch anything or do anything that's super highly stimulative for about 30 minutes before I lay down.
Mhm.
That's basically my routine. There's nothing special for being productive in the morning. Have a coffee pot that's on the timer. Sit for 5 minutes when I wake up to just drink coffee and be in a space alone to gather myself. And then I'm ready to go. Like, if you want me to be my most productive, that's literally all I need. That's what I do.
Yep.
Yeah,
I do think, like Shimmy said, I think a lot of people overthink it a little bit. Like, you're so worried about like oh, what's the next trick? What's the next secret I can do? And it's just like, do the things that work consistently.
Yeah. Did you guys see my satirical video on this?
Yes.
Where I was like, wake up at 4 a.m., take a cold shower.
That was good.
Oh, is that when you took the cold shower?
Yeah, when I screamed in my shower.
That video did well, right?
I think it did. Yeah, I took a lot of time thinking about it, but I was like, I basically like was making fun of all of those videos because I kept seeing them on TikTok. Like, oh, you got to do this is my daily routine. Get up, meditate. Blah, blah, blah. I was like, come on, like it's a lot. Like, it was essentially about sleep. But so I agree with both of you guys. And there's so much content on sleep. Like I have a whole video, like a 20-minute video on sleep hygiene, all that stuff. If you want to watch it, I'm glad you didn't focus too much on that. All the stuff you guys mentioned. I'll say some things that are probably a little more specific to people who tend to be more anxious because they've worked really well for me. So to talk about nighttime specifically, having a specific time where I start getting ready for bed because I know I have all these tasks I need to do. Just brush my teeth, take my supplements, whatever that may be. So a specific time of when you start the routine as well as when you go to bed. Because if I start pushing that back, I'll just watch one more episode of this. Then I get anxious because I go to bed late. So even just having a time where you start the routine, like for me, it's like an hour and a half before I go to bed. And then as far as the morning, so in general, I always have a to-do list on my phone. And that's where I offload a lot of the mental stressors. And that also helps me be more productive as I put the priorities higher on the list and I make sure I check those off throughout the day. As far as like my morning routine, I don't not check my phone. When I'm really on top of my stuff, I get on my phone immediately, turn on an audiobook, and then start doing my normal stuff in the morning because I just like to have that and I like to like listen to something while I'm getting ready, drink my coffee, take my dogs out, and then get to work. But the to-do list specifically for also de-stressing at nighttime, if you have things you're worrying about and you're trying to relax and kind of calm down, this for me was screwing up my sleep over time and hurting my productivity in terms. So offloading them onto if you have a notepad next to your bed or you have your notes on your phone, putting those things that are stressing out, like, oh, I got to make that call, just put it somewhere. And you've kind of now delegated it. You can be productive because now you've delegated to a time potentially. And you also are not stressing about it when you have to go do whatever you need to do, go to sleep and whatnot. So that's my few tips. Oh, you guys got really quiet.
Yeah, they got like awkward turtle for a second.
Awkward turtle.
What do you guys think? One more?
I don't even know if there are more, Dylan, or how many more are there?
I got more.
Oh shit.
Dylan's loaded.
I see that.
I got a lot this time for some reason.
It's good. Yeesha. All right.
So I'm trying to make it good. Let me see. Let me read through these.
Make it juicy.
Yeah. Russ Hanneman is the guy's name from Silicon Valley. Trevor, you never watched Silicon Valley? Oh, you should watch it. It's on HBO.
I remember you telling me to watch it.
Greatest show of all time.
Funny.
You should watch One Piece, but
I don't like anime. What can I do? I'm white. WHIT.
Yeah, but how many people like RP and stuff who are white who love anime? Steve Hall, Jared.
Literally everyone in my house likes anime.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to say about Silicon Valley. Every time someone says that, my grandpa, he's Polish and he's got a really thick accent. And one time he got drunk. He just rants about random shit because he's like, I don't know, just foreign and likes to do that. And he was just one time just like kept doing Silicon Valley, and he just kept doing this. So anytime anybody says that, I just think of that. It's horrible.
I figured you were gonna make a reference to breasts.
Hey, it was him, not me. Who cares?
That's hilarious.
Yeah,
this is the guy who
has nothing to do with boobs, sadly.
He had Playboy calendars in his bathroom, like when we were like since we were really young.
Oh, he wasn't involved with the company.
Playboy? No. He just for some reason had them in his bathroom.
Was he in fact a Playboy?
I don't know.
No, you don't know. You don't know if he had a consistent stable of Polish stallions.
I really just knew him when he became my grandpa, so he's my step grandpa. Maybe mysterious past.
That's
He was
right.
a handful. He was a handful, though, for sure.
He was the Zorro of Poland.
He was probably a gigolo. He was a pilot. So
You ever seen Zorro?
Oh yeah, ages ago.
Long time ago.
Antonio Banderas is so
Yep.
good.
Ooh, okay, I like this one. Never used knee wraps. Am I missing out on gains? Pros and cons.
I've never
Have
used
some
knee
knees.
wraps in my life.
Really?
Never once.
Trevor, if you used knee wraps?
Yeah, well, I powerlifted. I competed.
I love how that's like at a start. Like, of course I use knee wraps. I powerlifted.
I
As if, like,
competed
that's-
for
Come
a
on,
year.
Shimmy.
Raw with
Yeah.
wraps. Do you want me to take this one, Jimmy, or do you have thoughts?
I mean, I've never used knee wraps. I don't think there's a point unless you have problems with your knees.
I think they're stupid. I think they're stupider if you have a problem with your knees. I explain why.
Yeah, I would just need you to give me a really good reason to use them, and I don't know of a good reason to use them because I don't use them.
Dylan, you want me to go, or you have anything to say?
Yeah, go ahead and I'll follow.
All right. If you're training for hypertrophy, knee wraps are stupid, just flat out. And because you are literally taking tension away from the target muscle in the deepest stretch position, using the elastic tension of the wraps to propel the weight out of there. So you're just decreasing the amount of work your muscles are having to do, just so you can lift heavier weights. Like that's ultimately what wraps are for. So you're literally making hypertrophy worse. And there's actually like studies looking at the anthropometrics of using knee wraps being net negative on knee joint health over time. Most powerlifters that use knee wraps a ton, that competed in knee wraps, it really did mess up their joints because it changes the way the joint actually functions. It's not how it's meant to do. So when you're squatting in a knee wrap, as you come down, it actually bunches into a ball at the back of your knee and jams everything up between your calf and your hamstring. And so there's now this ball back here that pushes your knee straight. And that's not good for the joint. So if you're saying, oh, well, my knee hurts, so I'm going to wrap my knees up so that they don't hurt. Well, you're literally just going to jack up your knees more by doing it. Instead, maybe reduce the weight, change your technique, like learn how to train properly, maybe, and take a step back, even if you have to, and rehab your knees. And then you won't need to worry about using knee wraps. So no, you're not missing anything by not using knee wraps. Using knee wraps are stupid. And anyone who says that they're better for hypertrophy is an idiot. That's my rant.
Yeah.
I'm here for that.
Yeah, I agree. So I see a few things. I see a lot of people who don't want to reduce the load and actually want to lift more load. And that's one of the reasons why they use it. And then they're like, oh, my knees hurt, so I'm going to use wraps. And then I guess that's not the scenario, but that's one of the scenarios is they want to use more weight. They don't want to let go of using a lot of weight. And in turn, a lot of the time their knees do hurt. One thing that I think
they also have shitty technique anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the other point is they say their knees hurt, so they use wraps, but instead of addressing the fact that they have poor technique on a movement, that's another thing. And then another thing is I think that I don't know if it increases stimulus, but it definitely drives up fatigue because you're using more external load.
Yeah, it decreases stimulus.
Right. Especially
Again,
in the length of position, like you're mentioning.
Actual mechanical tension on the muscle is decreased.
Yeah.
When you use a wrap. If you're using a wrap properly, that's the point of it.
Yeah. So you made your SFR worse by using a wrap.
It's kind of like saying like using like, well, if you want to make it like less extreme, you can say using a slingshot for bench pressing. I'm going to use a slingshot so I can add 50 pounds to my bench so I can grow my pecs. You're literally taking mechanical tension away from the muscles. You're making the muscle do less work.
Yeah.
I was going to use using a bench shirt at first, but that's like much more extreme difference.
Funny. Maybe I'm a shill, but I actually I did a casting call for Mark Bell's gym for for his like his one of his new lines. I can't remember what it was. And I demoed, like they did photos of me doing like the bench shirt and like elbow wraps and knee sleeves and all that stuff. So and a squat suit too.
Dylan's selling out, guys.
I guess I'm a shill. I didn't really, okay, in my defense, I didn't really know much about this stuff.
Or the video.
Oh, well, you know what? They lost them. They also ended up not releasing that line because they had problems with the supplier, I guess. They were doing this like Lululemon, like internal. I have the shorts still. And it was like you know how like Lululemon has like the internal like kind of like net, and then the shorts. They had like stuff like that they were going to release, and I guess they had problems with the. And also, okay, and I'm not. This is not trying to humble brag. I was like their like last choice. The other guy got sick. I totally bombed the casting call. I was like so nervous. It was bad. I didn't know there was like bright lights and they did like a whole interview. I was like, I thought I was just gonna show up and like lift some weights.
Was there a couch?
There was no couch.
That's so funny. You're like, guys, I didn't plan that I was gonna I was gonna talk.
I was just gonna do meat. I
didn't think I was gonna speak. I wasn't ready for speaking. I had to warm up my voice.
Yeah, I was just ready to do meathead things. I was like, I can't act or do any of that stuff.
That's funny.
What? What are you saying, man? What did Lululemon patent? A gusset. Okay, so maybe they didn't release it because it's Lululemon patent.
I think I remember
gusset.
hearing that.
Yeah, the crotch part of the pants they patented that. Okay, interesting. That's probably why they didn't release it, because they patented that thing. So I have some exclusive shorts that nobody has.
Nice.
You're cool, man. You're cool.
So sick.
You should wear
them inside out so people know.
Website you can sell them on for a lot of money.
Yeah. I'll wear them inside out so people know how cool I am.
That's what you should do.
No, you'll get less money. The ball's got to be on them. That's how you maximize the return.
That's how you hurt.
Well,
them.
okay.
That's how you win.
I just don't wash them, then I just keep reversing them in and out. There we go. All right. Anyway, we'll get you guys out of here. Thanks for coming on. It was another good one. We're doing next Friday.
Yeah.
Cool. Expect another one next week, guys. If you want to submit questions, you can go to any of our Instagrams, which are all linked below, and you can submit questions. We usually on like Thursday we'll put out the question box. You could also, if you wanted to, I don't mind, put the questions in the comments, and then I can go through them while we're doing the podcast, and we can answer them as well.
Yeah, and guys, shoot us questions. You know, of course, we're going to post the day before, the day of, that we're taking questions, but you can always shoot us. We all do open Q&As on Instagram or whatever platforms we're on. But if you ever want us to answer something live, say, you know, please answer this question on the podcast live. You know?
Yeah. I agree. Because we can definitely give like a more thorough answer. You can get all of our opinions instead of just one of us, which can be a little bit better. So, all right. You guys have a good night, and stay tuned for another one. Comment, like, subscribe, all that chill stuff.